Hello, 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 and welcome to this month's amazing lineup on the Her Version Impact panel. We have an array of women talking tonight on the subject of confidence and leadership. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where do we stand as women on this subject, and how it is pivoting within our dynamic? Articles, books, blogs, and news is constantly pushing a headline regarding women in leadership. Although we are powerful agents of change and decision making, women continue to be vastly underrepresented and in decision making in politics, business, and communities, or are we? It has been suggested that instead of encouraging women to act like male leaders, somebody needs to mute.
Are we? It has been suggested that instead of encouraging women to act like male leaders, somebody needs to mute.
There we go. Sorry about that. It's been suggested that instead of encouraging women to act like male leaders, we should be asking men in power to adopt behaviors more commonly found in women. This would create a pool of better role models who could pave the way for both competent men and women in advance. These are the things that we'll be discussing today. For those of you that don't know me, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share. Let's jump right in. All right, so we are going to go ahead and jump in. I am going to be introducing our ladies today. We're going to start with Christina. I'd like to kind of start out with the question as to who you are, where you're from, what you do, why this subject. So if Christine wants to jump in and just introduce yourself quickly, let us know who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject, and then we'll kind of go around the room. You're muted, Christine.
Okay. Hi, I'm Christine Del Negro. I am an EFT practitioner and a life coach. EFT is a mindfulness modality. I think of it as an active form of meditation. It's a really great way to connect with yourself. And I teach my clients how to use it so that they can become more clear on what their thoughts and feelings are and kind of figure out what's holding them back and let go of those limiting thoughts. I am in New Jersey, and let's see why this subject, because I think that leadership and confidence is such an important topic for women. I think that even the most successful women, I don't think I've ever met a woman who hasn't experienced this whole imposter syndrome thing, this feeling of, I'm not who they think I am. What if somebody finds out? Everyone else is smarter than me. And I don't know that it's limited to just women, but I think certainly most women experience that at some point. And as I heard someone on a podcast say, I just stopped thinking that there was something wrong with me and decided that there was something wrong with the system. If I could look around a room and see like all of these incredibly talented, smart women, and every single one of them was telling me that they felt like an imposter, it's not us, it's the system. So I think that this is just such an important topic that we need to talk about. And I completely agree with the idea that I don't think it's the male model of leadership that we want to emulate. I really think that, the feminine, and I'm not saying all feminine, but I think that there are so many qualities of the feminine that would enhance leadership. And one of the things that I really love about life coaching is it tends to be a female dominated area. And there are so many women who are making really good money and helping people and have these wonderful businesses and have done it in such a way that they have time for they're not working 80 hours a week. They can pick up their kids from school. They can, spend time with their partner. They can do all of those things, and they can bring in 6 or 7 figures. They have figured it out, and they haven't gone the male corporate model. And so I think the more we talk about it, the more we figure out like what the alternatives are and how we can work together and help each other grow and just create a better world.
I love that. Thank you so much, Christine. Erika, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject?
Thank you for having me. My name is Erika Hull. I am the CEO and co-founder of The Corner Office. I am a life management consultant. Most people don't understand or know what that is, but I help you take all of your vocations and manage them well so that you can go after the things that you purpose. I live in Ohio in a small little town that nobody ever has heard of, really. But really, I'm from all over. I love to travel, and I've lived a lot of different places because I grew up as a missionary. Why this subject? I think that talking about leadership as women is important for women to talk about. There's a lot of books and things out there that talk about leadership that are male driven. And so I really do think that women need to take the platform and talk about it as far as how it reflects and on us and what it means to us, because leadership means so many different things. It's not just one definition. So that's why I believe it's important for us to talk about.
I love it. Thank you. Coach Kim, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject?
Hello. I'm Coach Kim. I am from Baltimore, Maryland, but I have relocated to Tampa, Florida. So I'm in the sunshine state now, loving it. And I am a vibrant life coach in Tampa. My connection is women in transition, and I deal with women who have this barrage of self-doubt, self-disbelief, and just damaged emotions. I think that's kind of like clenching if you see a bunch of chains around people. So I'm here just with the bolt clippers and just helping people free themselves so they can step into the confidence and grace that they are designed to operate in. This is a total alignment with who I am as far as leadership, confidence. I'm a former military intelligence officer. I knew I was a leader once I got into the military. And I think that once you get connected to something that pulls leadership out of you, then it helps you to go higher and higher. So if you never meet that thing, you can stay buried. So that's why I'm here to talk about that today, so we can help people see their truest potential. Glad to be here.
Absolutely love that, Coach. Thank you so much. Caren Cooper.
Hi, I am Caren Cooper. I am from Staten Island, New York. I am in the health and wellness industry. I'm an isogenics consultant. So that means I help you get off the diet hamster wheel, show you how you can live a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and show you how you can earn some money over the phone as well, using your phone and computer from pretty much anywhere. And I'm with you, Christine. Actually, one of the things I'm in the network marketing industry. So I love the fact that the network marketing industry, like life coaching, is a very female dominated field. And I've seen people literally come from any walk of life, women, and literally any walk of life, make a lot of money, be able to be home and contribute financially to our families. And the other thing I like about this subject is, you're too much, you're too emotional, you're too fill in the blank. And I know we get told that a lot as women, but our too much, like you were saying also, the system is broken. We're not too anything. You know what I mean? You just can't handle the two, if you will. I had to, I couldn't, it was wide open. But that's the whole thing. We're not too anything. And as women, I feel like it's just been, this is the way it is for so long. And now it's just time to break everything open.
I love it. Thank you so much, Caren. Natalie, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I am from New Zealand, Auckland, little old New Zealand. And I'm a wellbeing mentor, a spiritual wellbeing mentor, here to really activate those women and men, because I work with men as well, that's ready to step into their full divine expression of their magic, their medicine, their gifts, their wisdom in any way and form, and then really share that out with the world. So I absolutely love finding out what makes people, what makes them themselves, and bringing out the truth within those people and really allowing them to see the truth of who they are. And that gives me so much joy. I came onto this panel because I feel that our world has changed so much, and that there is so much that we are learning to navigate and unlearning at the same time. We're unlearning old paradigms, old ways of being, like the very masculine hierarchy, patriarchal structure. And so women are rising, man. Women are rising into their grace, into their beauty, into their power. And we have so much wisdom to share with this world. And we are the forerunners of the change. The divine feminine is here to change and be the catalyst for change in this world. So that's why I came onto this panel, because I just love talking about the subject, and we can go far and wide, but ultimately it's about how do we navigate our life right now as powerful leaders, and what does it mean to be a powerful leader during these changing times?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Natalie. Layla, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject? I think you're muted, girl.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for having me.
Who you are, where you're from, what you do, and why this subject?
This is the echo. Do you have something playing in the background? Because you're echoing.
Am I?
Yeah.
Am I still echoing? Hi, Sabrina.
Yeah, you're echoing really bad, girl. Maybe log on and log off. Maybe. So get off totally and then just get back on. I'll bring you back on stage. Geeta.
Hi, everyone. I'm an emotional intelligence coach. And today's topic, confidence and the leadership, is one of the most powerful topics we can talk about amongst girls and amongst women. I think girls, if I include them, because I hope we are taught about this self-worth, self-value, and how we can bring out our best self-esteem, whatever we are doing in our lives. So that's why the women, like all of us in the coaches forum, we struggle with the leadership, because we don't know how to put forefront and how to put ourselves all the time, keeping our self-worth and self-value always high in the form of confidence. So I love bringing out that in women, and here this is what we're going to be talking about. And this particular topic is very, very close to me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Layla, let's see if we can hear you.
Hi, I'm sorry about that. I had I had two of you on at the same time, and I never realized that.
Okay.
So thank you for having me. I'm Layla Mirza, and I have coaching and healing. So my website is laylamirzacoachingandhealing.com. So I work with people who have experienced abandonment, trauma from a very early age, and people who have been stuck with the inner child. I am born in Cape Town, South Africa, and I moved over to England almost 20 years ago. And I love getting people unstuck in their beliefs and shifting the old paradigm, showing them the fullest power and what their past does not really define who the future is and what they are in the future. So I am very drawn to helping women find their really innate confidence and teaching women that it's not about feeling insecure, about disempowered, but competence equals confidence. And once you can become competent as a human and as who you are, you can be confident in all areas of your life. So it's opening the box of competence in who they are.
Absolutely. I love that so much. Thank you, Layla. I'm so happy to have all of you here. For those of you listening live, there is 34 of you right now listening live. We appreciate you being here and supporting us. I encourage you to share this podcast right now and comment where you're from. Also, this is an interactive forum, so feel free to comment or ask questions. And your question or your comment might pop up on screen. I would love to start out by handing the floor over to Christine for the next 10 minutes or so. If you can kind of just reintroduce yourself, ask your question to the panel, and then we'll go from there.
I am Christine. I am an EFT practitioner and a life coach. And I work with predominantly women, but some men as well, on uncovering their limiting beliefs and what's keeping them stuck so that they can create more joy and less stress in their lives, and find their best self. I like to say I sell my clients on themselves. So I help them see how amazing they are. So I was thinking about the questions for tonight, and I was really happy that I'm going first because I had a whole bunch of questions, but it's easy because I'm going first. So I don't have to worry that someone was going to take my question. But I wanted to just start with, how do you define a leader? What does a leader look like to you?
Can I start?
Please.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that introduction. A leader to me is fully standing in their truth, walking their truth, talking their truth, being the person, being authentic, being just themselves. It's someone that you resonate with, that you can feel this beautiful energy radiate from. They are very solid in their boundaries. They know who they are. They have very clear boundaries around that as well. And they shine their light and their magic, and they are unapologetic about it. Yeah. However, there's also this, they can very much balance the strength and the vulnerability. Yeah. There is this beautiful way of balancing the softness versus this really passionate, beautiful, gorgeous woman that they are. Yeah, that's what it means to me.
I love that. I especially like, I resonated with everything you said, but the whole idea of vulnerability, because I think that we, the traditional idea of a leader is that you're strong and you don't back down and all of that. But vulnerability is like the birthplace of creativity. And so if we want creativity and innovation, we need to be, and as a leader, the people that are following you will match. If you can be vulnerable with them, then you make space for them to be vulnerable too.
You can't be a leader without doing the inner work and going into the shadow side and really seeing yourself truly for who you are, both dark and light. And that's super important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I saw Sabrina and I think Kim had hands up.
Kim can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, when I think of leader, I think of that as an action word. So I think of a leader as a take charge person, and that is they have the option, they create the option for themselves to take charge in any circumstance. They are always prepared, and it could be in an aggressive scenario, or it could be I have one of my mentors, she would say, whenever I'm around a bunch of my girlfriends and it's like, well, where should we go to lunch? Everyone looks to her. Like, that's just a decision, but they know she's a leader and she'll always have a place, a good spot. And that's just a casual, open space that she's very comfortable. She's never one to say, I don't know, where do you think we should go? She's like, oh, we could go here, here, here. So I think a leader is always thinking, and they're always planning. And I think a confident leader, even though they can take charge, they make space for other people to take charge, because leaders develop not followers, but they develop leaders. That's my take.
Sabrina.
That's exactly what I was going to actually say, is creating space. I think that's one of the most important things. I know I can very easily take charge, but I don't have any problem allowing somebody else to take the floor, to take the stage. And I think that is what a good leader is. I think that somebody who has the confidence, but also acknowledges the fact that they can hold space for other people to be able to shine. And I think that's actually a true leader. I think a true leader can relinquish control, can trust other people, can empower other people to be able to have their own voice.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Or anyone? Did I see? I thought I saw another hand. Layla.
I very much admire Marianne Williamson.
Mm.
And I like the fact that she, to me, is what defines some form of leader in a woman. And I feel like within every woman, there's a leadership ability that it's as if it's a hidden gift within women. But it takes you true power to stand in that, because a leader to me means someone who's comfortable in their power, someone who's able to be fearless, but also to act from their heart and have compassion.
What
Sabrina.
What does fearless mean to you, Layla?
Being brave. Fearless to me means being brave, standing in your power. You know, it's like speaking even when your voice is trembling, but giving yourself that, having the courage. It's courage, you know, that one requires. We can all be scared. We can all be afraid of taking the stand, but it's the one that has courage, who's not afraid to shine, who's not afraid to define the word, I can be fearless, regardless if my legs are trembling. And I think that is where a leader is born.
I want to. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
I agree with everything that people are saying, but I also want to put out there, and it was touched on, but I want to make it clear for anyone that's listening, because sometimes I think when we talk about leadership, it's the person at the front of the room, and it doesn't. You don't have to be. And if you're an introvert like me, you might be sitting there thinking, oh, I can't do that. Like, forget it. That's just not me. I'm not going to be at the front of the room. I can't be a leader. And I don't think that that's true by any stretch of the imagination. But I think we're definitely socialized to believe that it is true. So I want to put out there that you can be someone who doesn't like the spotlight, and still be a leader if you're standing in your truth, and you are, you're following, you're operating with integrity, you're respectful of yourself and of others, you create space for other people's feelings. It may take people longer to recognize your gifts, but they are, and maybe not, but again, because we're looking towards the front of the room, and sometimes the leader is sitting in the back row. And I just think that that's really important to remember, that there are lots of different kinds of leaders, and so whoever you think you are, and however you feel most comfortable operating, if you want to connect with your inner leader, you can do that, and you can make a difference. Natalie, you're muted. Yeah.
Thanks. I think we all are so incredibly different and so unique, and that we show our leadership in a very different way because of that uniqueness, because of our gifts and our abilities that we have. And I totally agree with you, Christine, that, it could be the person that's working in group work, that's working in the back, that are sharing their gifts in a specific way and being able to create specific transformations or profound transformations for people. And they might not be the person that wants to go on stage, that might not want to, be out there to the whole wide world, but do their work behind the scenes and still create profound transformations for people. So don't hide yourself. If you have gifts to share, if you have wisdom to share, if you feel that call to share your way of thinking that is completely different than someone else, don't hold back, right? Be unapologetically yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Erika. And then Caren.
So to answer your question, what does a leader look like to me? Like, what do I think about? I honestly, I cannot define somebody as a leader until they first have led themselves. And I don't think anybody should put themselves up as I'm a leader, I'm an expert, I'm at anything on a platform, on a stage, or in the back seat directing everything unless they have led themselves well first. Because that's when you're a true leader. A true leader can look in the mirror and they see a leader. So that's what a leader looks like to me is when I look in the mirror, do I see a leader? Do I know how to follow just as well as I know how to lead? And that's what a leader does. We've said that before. They carry that space, but they know how to follow really, really well because they acknowledge that that's a part of the process. To be able to lead, you have to be able to understand each step going up. So some of those things are the things that I look for, especially when somebody's talking about this discussion as far as what's a leader to you, what does it look like? Well, if they're not leading themselves well, then I don't particularly label them as a leader quite yet, because we have to recognize it in ourselves first. You are born able to lead, especially women. We were made to lead. Literally, our bodies, our chemical makeup was meant to lead. Because if you're a woman, you have the ability to birth humans, therefore you are their leader, right? We all know that TikTok that's going around. Have you created humans yet? I have. I am their leader, right? We've seen it going around. We were created to be leaders, but if you can't recognize it in yourself, nobody else is ever going to recognize it either. And so when we step into that and realize that we were actually created for this, it takes us to a whole different type of leadership, a leadership that comes from within, not that's been given to us from the outside. And that's the leader that I want to be, and that's the leaders that I want to follow.
I like that. I like that. Caren, I think you had your hand up.
Okay, first of all, I love all of that. Just want to that was amazing. Just want to point that out. And the second thing is, I was something similar. Like one of my teammates says leaders go first. And I think what that means to me, what that means is you see something and you're like, you know what? Yep, I stand in integrity. This is something that'll work, and I know this could work for my team. I know this could work for others. And then you go and do it. It's like the same thing with Jeff Bezos when he decided. It's like all the people, like Steve Jobs. They had these insane. Sarah Blakely. I mean, because we're talking about women. Let's say Sarah Blakely. She had this idea, and people thought she was out of her mind, and she still went with it because she knew this was something that could revolutionize and could really help others. So a leader recognizes that and then goes first and then ignores the naysayers because they know this is going to make a massive impact for others.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that part of being a leader is being brave enough to fail, because you know that you're on the right path and you know that what you're doing, and which doesn't mean that you can't acknowledge, well, you fail, obviously. And so then you have to figure out, okay, I failed. Why? What do I need to change here? Do I need to shift, totally change directions, or do I need to shift? But if you can't be comfortable with failure, and not that nobody's saying like you got to love it, but if you can't allow yourself to feel the feelings that go with failure, I don't think you can truly be a leader.
100. Geeta, we're going to hold off for 1 second. We're going to pull Erika up on stage. Thank you so much, Christine. I appreciate that. Erika, you're up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, my question for tonight is, and I'm going to assume that we've all had this moment because we're on this panel talking about this, but if you haven't had the moment, it's okay. What was the moment you realized that you were a true leader? I know it's going to take a little bit. Was there a moment, a spark? I know what mine was. I'll just give you an example. I've had a couple because I believe that there's different types of leadership. So I've had a few moments where I was like, that's it. It was not when I had my first child. I'll tell you that. And it wasn't when I had my second. when I birthed my third child and I was sitting there all alone, and they were all looking to me to go like, what's next? Where are we going? What's going on? And I realized that every single moment of their day, they were reliant on me. And I started to look at that as a completely, it was a business, it was a vocation, and I was the leader, I was the CEO, and here are my people, and how am I going to direct them? And how am I going to actually lead with the best example that I possibly can? So that was one of my moments. Caren?
It was with I have two moments, but when I had my daughter, who's going to be 21 this weekend, she was a month early. It was like a whole thing. And all of a sudden, like I had a moment, I was like, wait, holy crap. Like she's totally relying on me to like keep her alive. I was like, and like, you know, that like innately I carried her in my stomach and I gave birth to her and everything like that. Like I knew I was becoming a mother, but like the whole realization of like, wait a minute, like I have to actually like do stuff to keep this person alive. It was like this weird, huge realization for me. And I was to be honest, I was completely overwhelmed at first. She was my first kid. I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but she's upright. So, hey, I did something right. But that was like the first time. And you know what? My whole life, I feel like I've been a leader because my whole life, people have always come to me with something. I've literally been everybody's therapist my whole entire life. Like I joke I should get paid for it. I mean, I kind of do now with isogenics and helping with the health and wellness, but like I've always been, people always have come to me. And even if they don't know me, like even if there's just dark conversations, I'm the type of person that people can tell their issues to and help them in some way, shape, or form. So that's literally been my whole life. So those are my two moments where I kind of knew, and I leaned in to both of those heavily in terms of owning it, and not in a bad way, not in, oh my God, I'm so fat. I mean, I am freaking fabulous, but not in a conceited, obnoxious, but in a confident, we're talking about leadership and confidence, in a confident manner, in the sense that, you know what, I'm perfectly capable of doing this. I may not have a clue, like, you know, there's semi-parenting handbooks and stuff like that, but I'm confident in what I'm telling people and what I'm doing with my child, and even when I have my second child, that at least I can do something that will help in some way, shape, or form.
That's awesome. Gita, I want to call you on you next. It really is really interesting when you're saying that, because I remember my second time that I realized that I was a leader, and of course it was a different type of leadership, was when somebody else put the confidence in me to do something that I'd never done before. And they're just like, I know you can do it. And so in that moment, as I was accomplishing it, I realized that they were the one that said, here, I'm giving you permission to be a leader. Like, you don't need any, I have opened the door. Here it is. Just step onto this step and be a leader, because I have the confidence in you to do it. And it was really cool. Not that we necessarily need external confidence, but for somebody to say, here's the project, just do it. I know you're going to accomplish that. And so it was a really cool moment, right? When we connect the different types of leadership. I can watch kids and take care of them, but I can also handle this project and build buildings and do all this stuff. It was really cool. So Gita, what's yours?
Yeah, I think one of the two things, I think you touched upon that very well. The number one was, if you can take care of yourself in totality, with your emotions, with your everything on integration of your complete self, you can take care of anybody around you. So there had been instances in the past where I've seen when people do it, but then I gathered myself. A leader is the one, they know how to gather themselves well. So you can see it in the room, like when somebody's talking, when they're taking care of everybody around them. It's just not about them. It's just about everybody, whosoever they come in contact with. So that was one of the good things. Like I knew how to, sometimes they were like failures. Christina was touching upon that. Yes, you fail, but you know how to gather again and get up and get going. So that's what the leaders are. The second thing I think Erika mentioned was very well, when a lot of people, external people, put confidence in you that you are the one, you can do it. So there was one time when somebody told me to speak in the larger crowd, and I thought, oh my gosh, no, this is not me, and things like that. But that's one of the validations. You're just getting it now, and a leader again has to gather and put themselves together. Okay, let me do it. And that felt so good. It was not an internal validation, but it was more of an external validation. So I think a leader has a very, very good hold on themselves internally and externally, and just to speak what they need to speak very authentically.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Natalia. And then Coach Kim, you're next.
Thank you for that. I found my leadership in a very different way. I think my parents, when I was younger, they encouraged me a lot to always be curious, always try things. And that really pushed me outside my comfort zone a lot. And I started building my leadership skills. You know, I feel like we're all born leaders. And that is something that we all have to recognize within us, right? And then when I was in an accident in 2018 that changed my life completely, I was the one that was crawling through the glass and holding those that were going through distress, holding their hands and telling them that they're okay. And that awakened something huge in me. And I realized that I'm more resilient than what I think. And so I feel like these experiences that we have, the relationships that we have with people, those moments of awakening come through someone saying to you, you've got this, or the universe giving you a big kick up the butt saying, you know, you've got to step up and really show who you are now. And I remember sitting on the couch one day and being told or hearing the words, your work here is not yet done. And I was like, right, show me the way. And you've got to be willing, and you've got to have some guts, right? And determination. Even though you don't have all the answers, you've just got to go with your gut and feel your way through it, because you've got everything you want within you.
Kim, you had your hand up? You're next.
Yeah, so I'm kind of looking at leadership from me, my experience through a reverse telescope, if you will, and looking kind of hindsight. And I would have to go with like my mom's, one of her pride and joy stories that she tells when she took me off to kindergarten, and all the kids were clinging on to their parents and afraid to go. And I just immediately released her hand and ran into the classroom, like, see ya, like, I'm going in this direction. And I'm looking at that as a precursor to my leadership, because as I look at leadership now, I look at it as a person who's very curious and someone who leans into the unknown with great joy and anticipation. And those characteristics have followed me in every leadership opportunity. And I forget who said it earlier. The other thing I want to say is that I have learned that leadership is transferable across roles. So I had leadership in the classroom, I had leadership in the military, and then when I became a homeschool mom, I became a vice president of our homeschool group, but I was kind of hidden behind the president. I'm like, well, I'm new to homeschooling. She's been doing this for ages, so I'm just going to sit back here. I had a bunch of great ideas, and I would just kind of whisper them in her ear. And she finally told me, hey, stop leading from behind, come up on the level with me and co-lead and then take over. And that just reminded me that leadership, well, let me say it this way. The word of God says that your gifts will make room for you. So you don't have to push forward. You just shine, and the universe will open up and give you space in it to lead in your set time.
I love that. Yes, we are. That is the truth. And at the corner office, we define our lives in sections called vocations, because everything takes skill and time. Your relationships, yourself, your motherhood or parenthood, your home management, right? And in each of those vocations, you are an amazing leader. You're a different type of leader in each of those vocations, and you show up in different ways, but it's cross-transferable. And if you could realize that if you just took the skills over here that you excel in and put them over here, you're going to thrive there too. It's really amazing. And I think that's what we start to learn as we step into becoming the leader that we will be and that we are, because sometimes we need to see it. We need to be able to see our successes before we can step up and say, I'm ready to lead this next area, because we haven't been able to envision it yet. But it's so important for us to realize where we are leaders in our lives. And I really love seeing the transformation of mothers in particular who don't think that they've ever been in a leadership role, or that they're not a leader. Once they realize like all that they're accomplishing, and they're basically like the badass CEO, like, you're running multiple businesses here, woman, let me just teach you that. They change. everything about them changes. When you step into that leadership role and the mentality and that mental and emotional tone that you take on, your energy changes. And many of us have said that we see a different shine, we see a different light, and other people start to recognize that. So I think that's awesome. Caren, did you have something else you want to add in?
You know, I love when you talk about with moms and us being CEOs and things like that, because I used to work in corporate, and I'm not knocking it by any stretch of imagination, but like there was a lot of times where I was fearful to say that I was a mom. Like if I was going on an interview or job interview or something like that, because it was like, look, I felt that actually I didn't feel I was totally looked down upon. Like I'm a mother and I'd have to leave early, and the whole things that come with, and I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole of the fact that it's still going on in 2022, but whatever. And it was I was fearful of saying that, but I was like, you know what? My superpower is that I'm a mother, because I mean, you're talking about a CEO. I mean, not that I'm I have 2 children, so keeping those kids upright, but they were in daycare. Who's going to watch them? Who's going to do this? I have scheduling, schooling, a husband, like all these things, all these literal plates in the air that I'm juggling, and I'm juggling them damn well, and no plates are falling down. So why was it used against me? A mom is one of the biggest leaders there is, if you really think about it, because we have so much going on, and yet we can keep everything organized, compact, and we know what's going on, and we think ahead. That's the other thing. Leaders think ahead. As a mom, we always think ahead. We know what's going on. We know when to make the appointments and things like that. And that's a leader as well. We're always thinking, what next, that kind of a thing.
I love that. I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and cut us here. Thank you so much, Erika. I appreciate it. Kim's actually up next, Coach Kim. However, there is a question that I like to bring up. So let's kind of engage in the question first, and then we'll kind of ease into Coach Kim. Hey, Kim, if you want to read the question actually for the audio.
How can I handle someone who is a mean leader? And I'm sure this mean doesn't mean like average. Like who'd like to jump in on that? How do you handle a mean leader?
I'd love to jump in. I think that there are 2 things that I want to talk about quickly. One is, and these are not my original ideas, but some coaches talk about something called a manual, which is that we all have this idea that people should act in a certain way. And if they don't, it annoys us or it upsets us, and we take it personally. But it's really that they're operating from their own manual, and they may have a very different perspective. So the first thing is to think about is, when you look at this other person's behavior, is the behavior truly toxic and mean-spirited, or are you interpreting it that way because you're just coming from a different place? Because that definitely can happen. And then the second thing is, if you decide that, no, there's behavior that you really don't want to have to deal with or to tolerate, you want to think about how you can set some boundaries with that person. And so, for example, and I know it can be difficult in a workplace situation if it's your boss, but like if the person raises their voice and you don't want to have a conversation with someone who's yelling at you, you can say, if you raise your voice, I'm going to leave the room. And when you're ready, I'm happy to have this conversation with you, but I'm not going to do it with raised voices. And you can set that boundary. Now, the other person might get upset. And you have to decide, when you're thinking about boundaries, what lines are you willing to draw, and are you willing to fight for those lines? So that's just one way of thinking about it.
I appreciate that. And I definitely see you, Natalie. I wanted to also piggyback on that. One of the things that Caren was saying earlier about supermom powers, it truly reminds me that when we get into a professional environment, I swear I'm not exaggerating. I'm looking at people and I see, and someone also said looking at inner children, I see children in tall bodies. Like the way people conduct themselves, the way they interact. And so, Lucy, even sometimes we kind of have to pull ourselves back and say, what's really going on here? Why is this person behaving at this level? Because that what you're seeing is not the whole story. And so we get a chance. And sometimes the fortunate part is sometimes we get a split second to make a decision on how we're going to react facing a particular behavior. So it will behoove us to try to pull ourselves back and look at a macro level, to breathe, to step away from something before we immediately interact. So I'm sure you're obviously talking about a pattern, Lucy. I'm sure it's not one time someone said something, but those are just kind of a couple of my takes. And I'm going to pass it over to Natalie at this segue. She says, Natalie, that the person kind of scolds them like we're children, very demeaning. What are your thoughts, Natalie?
Yeah, thank you, Lucy, for your question. I always find that our most challenging leaders are our greatest lessons, our greatest moments of growth. Often when we face, and I come from a corporate environment before I actually moved into this space, I find that there's a lot of competition amongst those leaders and those people to perform in a certain way and be in a certain way. And you might find that you have a glass of wine with them, after work, and they're completely different. And I always feel like we have to meet those people where they're at. What is their situation? What are they going through? And what is that mirroring to you as a person? Like, what is it that you have to be aware of? What is it activating within you or bringing or making alive within you to take note of? And how are you dealing with it? Are you being reactive instead of actually focusing on what's actually playing out here between the relationship? And how can you bring softness into that space by not being reactive or feeling wounded? Because there's always a wound, right? When there's someone that scolds someone else, it's because they are scolding themselves. They are hurting themselves, and they act that out or play that out because they can in a work situation like that. So do not give it any energy. Okay, do not play into their childish games, their mind games. Go inside, ask yourself the question, do I really need to worry about this? Is this really something that is going to have to worry me all day, every day, and change my work environment? Or am I going to rise in my power and make a choice and stand in my own truth and say my truth? Sorry, I'm not going to allow you to speak to me like this. This is what I think about it, right? It's about really using your true expression and your voice and not feeling like the victim here. Stand in your truth. That's so important. Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie. That was so on point. And I think maybe a third grader could say it in 4 words, and those 4 words would be hurt people. So as people are pushing that out, there's something behind it, and you get to decide how much energy, how much time you're going to put into it, all the while protecting your boundaries. But that's a lot of stuff. But now we're here because we know women are multitaskers. We can protect, we can push, we can speak, we can interpret, we can do all these things. But at the same time, we still have to have that measure of self-care so we can stay balanced and do what we need to do at every, turning point. So speaking of leadership, I want to know what you all think about these 3 different leadership styles, and what do you think is most impactful? Leading from the front. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to follow me, do as I do, and I'm going to set the pace. You guys can watch me and follow. Leading from the pack in the middle. Okay, I'm a servant leader. I'm in it with you. Look at me, watch me. We're doing this together. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Or leading from the back, where you're just delegating and saying, okay, go do this, and come back and report to me. Front, middle, back. What do you think is most effective? Yes, Erika, unmute yourself.
I'm always going to go lead from the pack. Like, I want to be down in the dirt with you. I'll scrub the toilet. I'll mop the floor. I will shovel the shit. I don't care what it is. I want to be right there beside you. Because I think in that space, the leader can not only provide the example, but the encouragement that's needed. When you're in the front or when you're in the back, the encouragement gets left off. because you could be providing the example or the how to do it, right? You can be delegating, which is the example, but the encouragement in it, we're in this together. I feel like for me, that's the only style that I prefer and I like to do, but that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine, and then Caren, and then Geeta.
I would say that my default is lead from the pack. But I'm also going to argue that I think a good leader can do all three as the situation calls for. Because I do think that there are times where you need to lead. Like, I'm going back to the parenting example. I think with my children, there are times where I need to lead from the front, and you're following my example. Like, I'm setting the tone. I am, acting with integrity in a way that I expect you to model. And there's not really any negotiation here in certain things. Like, I'm all about negotiating with my kids, but like, there's no negotiation around the fact that you're going to treat other people with respect. You're going to be open to all kinds of ideas and lifestyles. You're going to be polite. All of those things. It's not a discussion. That's the way it is. It's a dictatorship when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm leading from the front. Then leading from the pack is we're in this together. We are going to have conversations. I want to know when you don't like the way I'm doing something. Doesn't mean I'm going to change it. It might, but I want to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, so that we can at least discuss it and I can explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. And maybe I will change it if it's something that isn't that important to me and is really important to you. Mm-hmm. And then leading from the back when there are times where I'm delegating because you're old enough to do this on your own. And I need you to become more independent. That's part of my job as a parent. So I'm going to delegate and I want you to report back to me. So I think I would say that, the majority of my time is in the trenches with them. But definitely all of those ways of leading, I think, are appropriate at different points.
Thank you for those terrific examples. Caren, what are your thoughts?
Love that. I love that, Christine. Like, absolutely love that. But I do think, and I do agree to a point. Like, I do think leading from the pack is most likely the most effective in all areas: parenting, working with people, that kind of a thing. Because you're in the trenches with them, you're showing them it can be done, and you're listening. You're hearing what others have to say. You're like masterminding, if you will, together, and people have a say of what to do and whatnot, and you're taking everything into account, and you're showing them that you can do it with them. You're all in this together, kind of a thing. But there will be moments, to Christine's point, even in general speaking, even in corporate, but not just parenting, even in any type of leadership, whatever you do for your work, where you're going to have to lead from the front, because it's great to be. You almost sometimes as a leader have to set yourself apart in a way. So leading with the pack and being in the trenches and doing things together is awesome. But it's also a matter of, I'm trying to put this, it's not like I'm, like as a parent, yes, a totally dictatorship and things like that. But it's almost like, with my team, for example, I'll use my isogenics business as an example. If I give someone homework, I'm in the trenches with them. I'm doing power hours with them. I'm doing team things with them. And then, but if I, I'm doing something, giving them homework, giving them something to do, and they're not doing it, that's when I have to sort of lead from the front and say, listen, these are things that we talked about, or even clients, these are things that we went over, you're not doing them. Yes. How can I, and then ask them, how can I help you make it better? And work with them but then you're leading from the front, because then you're calling them out on their crap, if you will. Yes. And then leading from the back also means taking a step back sometimes, because if we're leading with the pack and showing people how it could be collaborative and done together, then sometimes you just got to lead from the behind and let others take their role and shine. And you were talking, Coach Kim, like you were giving the homeschool president ideas, and she was using them, and then she's like, wait, and then so she led from the back. In that instance, she led from the back, because she's like, you know what, I'm the president, but you know what, Coach Kim, you have amazing ideas. Come work with me. So in a
Right.
way, she was kind of both, did both front and back, because it's like, you know what, no, you got some great ideas. Let you shine through. So I think all of them, leading from the pack is most effective, but there are times you have to do both. All three.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. Coach Keat, I saw you doing a lot of nodding. So what do you have to add?
So I think I'll just touch bases for the previous Lucy questions, because I had a different view of point over there. Because I don't know, many of you have you heard a word called assertiveness? Because sometimes in your life you have to be very assertive. If somebody is being mean to you or they're demeaning you constantly, but you have to make sure your tonality, the way you speak, should not be raised, but you make your point very clear to them with firmness. And I think this is one of the biggest things we need to learn as a women also, because so many of my clients, they have an issue of putting across their points more firmly. So I think every woman should learn the balancing you were talking about, Kim. Yes, we should be balanced, but there are times in your life when somebody's putting you down again and again, to pull your back, confidence and self-esteem up. You have to put across your point very assertively, very firmly, so that you're not impolite, but you're putting across there. So that was one of the things I wanted to add over there. And as far as your leadership styles you were talking about, I think all three of them. You cannot pick and choose if you're a leader. You can never ever pick and choose anything. So you have to work very circumstantially, because either you are taking front, or you are with the pack, or you're taking the back end. You have to do it all together at some point of time, because a leader is a follower also, and a follower can become a leader too. So that's how you have to maintain that equilibrium over there. So I think all three of them should be a good leader should possess all three of them styles. How you work with people.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think the takeaway is that we have to learn to be trilingual, if you will. We have to be versatile and know, when to use what tool for what circumstance. That's the discernment, wisdom, knowing how to operate in versus saying, I only lead from the front, because guess what? You're going to leave a bunch of people in the back. Or I'm only, I will only lead in the middle. You have to be able to listen, read the room, right? Be emotionally intelligent enough to say, in this circumstance, I'm going to do thus and such. So becoming a leader, as you evolve and move to those higher levels, you want to learn how to tap into different environment scenarios, and then pulling more from yourself, because you want to be good at all three of those areas. Thank you so much. Do you have another question, or do I have to pass it off, Sabrina?
I love it. I love it. Lucy's actually back, so I'm going to hand the mic over to Natalie, because Natalie's up next. So Natalie, if you want to read the question, maybe we want to talk about this for a couple minutes and then lead into your question.
Sure. How can a shy person become a leader? Yeah. Even being a shy person, you have incredible gifts and abilities. You, as a shy person, are an empath, and you can be a really good listener. And being able to be a good listener is such a key, an incredible skill to have. And then being able to tap into your intuition, listen deeply to what that person requires, and be able to give advice is something that is incredibly valuable. So even when you're shy, being that deep listener can be an amazing leadership quality. Anyone else? Yes, go for it.
Go ahead,
Coach
Lucy.
Kim.
Well, I was going to say also, Lucy, I think part of it depends on you learning what your gifts are, because shy is just one of 1,000 things that describe you, so you can discover what you're really good at and then push that even higher, so that it literally shines. And as that happens, other people, it's almost like a moth to a light. People will come and say, wow, I've never seen anyone. It could be something like put puzzles together in such a short amount of time. That's like organizational skills. Or what are you good at, so that will make room and make a buzz around you. And because you're good at that, going back to what someone said earlier, your competence makes room for your confidence, right? Because you're good at it, people will want to learn from you, see how you do it, encourage you, get on your bandwagon, and you won't be shy in that venue, because that's what you do, right? So learn about what your gifts are and push those out, and that will help you become more of a leader or stronger leader.
Yeah, I love that, Coach Kim. Thank you so much for sharing that. Coach Geeta, go for it.
I think, Lucy, the best way to start is get the clarity around your passion, what you're passionate about. It's as simple as that. So please look into what you really like doing and what you do it very effortlessly. You don't have to put much effort into it, and see how the people around you, they react towards it. Let's see if you love cooking, and if somebody says, oh, you made us some good lasagna, something like that. So that's the basic way to start, because a shy person has a very big limiting belief that they are not good at anything and they won't be able to speak about it also. So I think just pay attention to what you're good at. It's just simply doing things you love doing, and that is you're passionate about.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, always follow your passion. Go for it, Christine.
I also think the more you connect to yourself and kind of accept yourself exactly the way you are, the more grounded you become. So, I think that we have been socialized to believe often if you're a shy person or a quiet person, and I'm speaking about myself too, we think of that as a deficit. And it's not a deficit. It can be a real strength. So going back to what Natalie was saying, like, I think the more you embrace your maybe more quiet nature and really kind of think about all of the benefits of being you and everything that you have to offer, and just like the more centered and grounded you are in yourself, you're just going to start to attract people to you. They may not even know why, but they're just going to feel calmer in your presence. They're going to feel like they're being seen, and you're just going to start to draw people to you. So I think the more you accept yourself and see all of your own gifts, the more that's going to shine through to others. Because I really believe that, like, the key to all of it is self-love and self-acceptance, because when we have that, we can do almost anything. And it may not always be easy, but when we trust ourselves and believe in ourselves enough, then we can push forward even when it's uncomfortable. So just really believe in yourself and love yourself right where you are, because you are enough exactly as you are. You don't need to change a hair on your head, and believe that and see where that takes you.
Yeah, that is so powerful. Thank you, Christine. I've got goosebumps. Yeah, always acceptance is so key. And also the other thing is finding your why, really connecting with your why. And if you're feeling lost, and if you're feeling, and you're working in a job where you're not being seen, or you not feel like you're being seen or celebrated, or you feel like it's just not your mojo, okay, it doesn't turn you on, it's not a thing that drives your passion, then you've got to have a think about what's your why. Why are you in that space? How can you pivot? How can you change and step more into doing what you love and sharing what is ready to radiate from you as a beautiful person, right? And in which way can you then share that? Perhaps you're not in the right profession. Perhaps you are needing to shift, needing to pivot, needing to look at life in a different way. So there's always some beautiful moments. I always believe in synchronicities that come our way and tell us where to go and what to do. So yeah. So I'd love to ask my question. What is authentic embodied leadership? What does it mean to you? Authentic embodied leadership. What does it mean to be authentic and embodying that authenticity? This one's got all of you. let's think about a challenging time in your lives as a leader. And how did you manage that challenging time? How did you stay authentic and true to yourself? Go for it, Erika.
So I'm going to answer your question, and I do want to say 3 tangible things that somebody can do as if they think that they're shy and they can't be a leader. So I thought authentic embodied leadership, I think honestly that's the next level of leadership, because to be a leader, you've got to get to that point where you realize, see it in yourself before you can actually emulate it. And so that's a growth process. I think that if you're leading somebody and you're saying, here's the to-do list and I need you to do this and this and this and this, that's a different type of leadership, right? Authentic embodied leadership is really what many of the women on the panel have been talking about today, is when you're in that place of leadership that you have stepped into your own power, that nobody can knock you down. You know without a shadow of a doubt that you're a leader in this, that you're speaking your truth, you have nothing to hide, there is no false claims being stated, and the guarantees you're giving are really, really verifiable and genuine, right? That they're not useless and empty words. I think then we become that authentic embodied leader, especially when we found that specific thing that we're really, really good at. We're capable of like taking that to like, I see like this, you know, the angels that have the aura around them, like that's the leader when you get to that level. But becoming a leader, especially when you're shy, everything that every woman said is great, but I want to actually give you 3 things that you can do. Sit in the front row. So you're shy and you want to be a leader, sit in the front row. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Answer questions, volunteer, step into it before you even think you're comfortable. So if it's just coordinating the snack schedule for your child's baseball team, or it's coordinating the baby shower at work, step up and volunteer for something. Put yourself in the place to lead, whether you think you're ready or not. Do it, but do it at a level you're comfortable. So sit in the front row and raise your hand and volunteer. And then 3, actually decide what a leader means to you and what type of leader you want to be. And then find that person, because success emulates success and leadership emulates leadership. So if you find somebody that you're like, I really love this person's a great leader, I love what they do, emulate them, follow them. Figure out what they're doing, listen to what they're saying, repeat some of the things that they're saying, because whatever they're saying out loud to you, they've said a million times to themselves before they've ever told you those words, right? And those things that they've repeated over and over have helped them become the leader that they are. Because I guarantee every single one of us on this panel has been or is shy at some point in time in our life, right?
Yeah.
And so those things, putting yourself in the front row, raising your hand and volunteering right away, and emulating leadership are 3 tangible ways that we can step out of that shy, this is my little protective zone, and step into that uncomfortable realm with actual tangible actions to do. So.
Yeah, thank you, Erika. That's really powerful. It's great to have really tangible tips that you can take action right now. Anyone else want to share what they think? What is authentic and embodied leadership? Anybody else? Go, Coach Geeta.
I think authentic leadership is your self-mastery. Absolute self-mastery of yourself. Nobody else. And you don't want to be called as a leader. You are perceived as a leader no matter what. But the only thing you have done to yourself is you have self-mastery on yourself. Your emotions, you have a perfect integration of, if I may use the metaphysical words, masculine and feminine powers. So authentic person is that who has done it all, knows all, and can see it all, you know. So I think it's a self-mastery of yourself, and you'll be perceived as an authentic leader no matter what you do. It's the littlest of things or the biggest of any of the opportunities or projects. So for me,
Sorry to interrupt you. Yes, that's really, really powerful. It is a balancing act between, finding your masculine and feminine energy, because that's what I teach. And that's you speaking my language. And so I feel that for me, especially authentic leadership is about walking your talk. You know, we see, and I agree with what Erika said as well, we see so many leaders out there and we look up to them, or, you know, especially when we started back there in our journey, and we see all these leaders and we're like, oh my gosh, there is an array of people out there all sharing their magic and things. And often we resonate with a specific person, right? And we follow them and we want to be like that person. We want to almost have the success, and there's this comparison that comes in, which I'm sure that some of us have all felt at one point in time, right? But it's about finding what makes you authentically yourself. What is it that lights you up? And when it lights you up, it will light others up, and those people you'll attract to you. That's your soul clients, right? And that's how your soul radiates out, and you can feel the passion and the love, and it radiates out in your leadership and the way that you hold yourself. So that it's really about being yourself, being your quirky self, right? If you're weird, if you're wonderful, if you're crazy, if you want to do jiggy dances and be a leader, just be yourself, right? Be unapologetic. Anyone else want to share? Go for it, Sabrina.
Just an add-on to what Erika said. You know, a lot of times people get confused with the difference between, or think there's a difference between courage and confidence. And there's this thought process as far as, you know, how do I get more confident? How do I acquire more confidence? It's important to recognize, like Erika was saying, that, you know, stepping into things that scare you just a little bit, and those are the courageous acts. So it's actually doing courageous things that creates the confidence. So confidence doesn't just like come out of thin air. The reason people have confidence most of the time is because they have done courageous things. They've stepped into fear. They've taken a step into something that caused some sort of anxiety or some sort of unknown feeling. And the more that they do that, the more that they challenge themselves, the more that they step into a struggle and then step out of the struggle, the more confidence that they can acquire.
Yeah, absolutely. Brave leaders do great things and scary things. Coach Kim.
I was just going to add that it's amazing how much we believe in that moment that the spotlight, like a stadium light, is on us when I'll do the snacks, and you think the whole world is, everyone is, E.F. Hutton, is he speaking? And you say, and the person signs you up, and life goes on like nobody, it's not cracking the world. It's not that, it's huge in your mind, but we are minuscule in the world, in the school system. We're just one little pause, and we do it. And sometimes you just have to act your way into it. Like, hey, what would I do? How would I manage this task if I were a confident person? Okay, let's see what that looks like, you know? And then ta-da, because it's the movement that gets the momentum that builds the confidence. I thought those were excellent action steps, Erika.
Thank you, Coach Kim. Christine.
And I just want to add to what Coach Kim said, which is, and if you are, you know, doing the steps that Erika outlined, and you feel anxious and you feel nervous and you feel like you want to throw up, that doesn't mean anything has gone wrong. That just means that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You're being human and you're being brave. And there is not one person on this panel, and I'm going to say pretty much anyone, who like may appear to, like, we look at other people and we think, God, they're so confident. They have so much self-assurance. I could never do that. Well, they're just as scared as you are. They've just gotten they've gotten comfortable with being uncomfortable, and they've done it. And as Sabrina was saying, and they didn't fall apart. And so they said, all right, I'm going to do it. It's that, like, you got to have the courage to fail, like, because, you know, like, you might do it and it doesn't go well, but that doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're going to learn from it. You're going to figure out what you want to do differently, and you're going to move on. So it's like the more comfortable we can be with all of our feelings, even the crappy ones, the more we are able to push ourselves forward. Is if we can feel those feelings, and sometimes you have to feel them and do it anyway. Somebody used the analogy of a purse. It's like carrying a heavy purse. So your fear, your anxiety, it's like a purse. You might want it to be lighter, and at some point maybe it will be, but you can still move forward with that. You can still walk around the block with that purse. It's going to be a little harder, might take you a little longer, but you're still going to get where you're going. So just keep moving forward, and don't let your brain tell you that just because you feel anxious and scared means that you should stop. You got to talk to yourself and just remind yourself that you can do this.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful, Christine. Thank you for sharing that. I always say on the other side of fear is your greatness, right? If you're willing to go there, grab the bull by the horns and go for it. You know, life is too short. You've come here to live this life, to experience life. Why sit in a room with 4 walls and hope for the best, right? Go out and get this life, experience it. And if you fail, get up. Even if you have to do it 20 times, each time you're stronger, you're learning a lesson. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult, but don't give up. You know, every single woman I know, Sabrina's story, my goodness, this woman never gives up, right? She goes and she goes. And it takes resilience and it takes determination, but it is also incredibly liberating. So liberating.
Beautiful.
So anyone else want to share anything else about that? Or Sabrina, do you want me to ask another question, or should we move on?
We're good. We're going to Miss Geeta. We do have another question from the audience. I do want to say that we have 29 listeners right now. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you being here and listening in. So Charlotte, Geeta's actually next. So Geeta, if you want to read the comment or the question, I guess, this actually popped up like 1 minute after Erika gave her 3. So we might have to reiterate that. And then if anybody else wants to chime in, but Geeta, if you want to read this, and then we'll go from there. Oh, you're on mute, Geeta.
I think I missed the leadership puzzle pieces. My husband and my children walk all over me. I do not work, but I don't feel any power in my life. What is the first step I should take to find the leadership I was so-called born with? All right, Erika, would you like to answer? Yeah.
The first step, Charlotte, is changing what you're saying. You don't work. That's just not a true statement. If you're married and you have children, then you're working all the time, woman. You're a major leader in your life. I think sometimes that we have put ourselves in a place of submission because either one, we were naturally trained to be there, or 2, society has put us in that place and we have not been able to find a way to step out of it. And unfortunately, not every woman is privileged to have a support system of women around her to say, that just don't fly anymore, sweetheart. And it is a privilege. It's a privilege to have people around you to bring you up. So Charlotte, the next thing I would say is after you've changed the statements that you're saying, because you are working and you are leading, is to book a call with either myself or Sabrina. And I'm thinking Coach Kim too. Not that the other women on this panel aren't wonderful, but I would start with the 3 of us first, because I think there's some actual tangible things that you could do in your life to take care of yourself first, because there's where you need to start. You have to start with the leadership inside of you, and the ripple effect will affect your husband and your children first. So we're just going to start on you being a leader to yourself. That's the very first place. I think unless anybody else wants to disagree with me, change your statements and book a call with one of us women so we can help build you up. And I think there's a few tweaks that you just need to make right now, and you'll start seeing it very quickly.
All right. Yeah, Natalie, you're next.
Yeah, I totally agree. It all starts with you, Charlotte. So it's about finding your worth, looking at what's your worth, how do you value yourself, and really starting to work on the inner things, finding the love for yourself again and finding your voice, my love, right? Speaking up about your needs, your desires, your wants, and what it is that you want in that relationship. And there is a way out, okay? But it starts with you. It begins within you. And yeah, there's truly people that I deal with every single day that go through this, women and men that have been in these situations. And when you fully step into your own self-love and your own power, and when you find your voice, because you have a voice, you have needs, you have desires, and the willingness to move out of the space that you are in now, there is so much waiting out there for you, my love. Okay? So, yeah.
All right. Christine?
You're muted.
There you go. I agree with everything that's been said. And so going back to what Erika said with changing the way that you're thinking, because I just want you to think about the fact that when you have a thought, that thought creates a feeling. And if the thought that you have is, I don't work, or I'm not a leader, the feelings that you're going to generate are not feelings that are going to feel good or serve you or inspire you to do more. So think about, I would say, like, look for all of the examples in your life where you are a leader, whether it's some of the things we talked about, like you're probably organizing your kids' schedules, whether they're sports schedules or doctor's appointments or, theater, whatever your kids do. You are probably getting dinner on the table every night. You're probably, volunteering at school or whatever, I'm sure there are things that you are doing. And those are forms of leadership. So make yourself a list of all show yourself evidence, because our brain always likes evidence to prove what we're thinking. So show yourself evidence of all of the ways that you're going to be a leader, that you are currently a leader. And then maybe choose one thing where you'd like to push yourself a little bit farther. Maybe it's taking on a small project, or, having a conversation with your family about one small change that you would like to make in what you do around the house. Whatever it is, you can start really small if that's what you're comfortable with and go from there. But you really do want to look at all of the thoughts that you have, because those thoughts, they often feel like the truth, and they're not. We tell ourselves these things, but they're not. It's not the truth. It's just the story we tell ourselves. And you can change your story. And when you change your story, you change everything. My story for a very long time was that I was emotionally fragile. I couldn't take care of myself. I was stuck in a marriage I didn't want to be in because I couldn't be a single parent. When I changed the story, everything changed. My whole life changed. I am 180 degrees from where I was before. And it started with me just saying, you know what? I don't believe it anymore. It's not true. It's not true. And you can do that too.
Sabrina?
Christine just kind of triggered a memory from my past a little bit. So this is kind of off on a tangent, Charlotte. But I think that it's important to add because it kind of just came to me. But when I was in a relationship that could be identified as toxic, one of the things that my ex used to say to me was, whoever makes all the money makes all the rules, and whoever has all the money has all the power. And he said this to me so often that one day it just clicked. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. He said, whoever, not him, whoever has all the money. And I thought to myself, does that mean that if I have money, I can have power? And I started to kind of play with that a little bit. And I opened up an eBay account. It was one of the first things that I did to be able to create a little bit of flow of income for myself. And I started to secretly sell things online. And I started to create a little bit of money for myself that was my money. And just that little change of a thought that was so small and so minute. And it started with $5, and then it went to $12, and then it went to $32, and then it was $164, and then it was $1,000, and then it was $6,000, really helped me with that confidence, taking that courageous act into what if I did this one thing? Would it change the trajectory of my journey or of my story? And that's my story. That might not be an issue that you're having, Charlotte, but I do know that there are women out there that are having that issue. So I kind of wanted to throw that tidbit out there. But like Christine said, just shifting and just recognizing, where do I have a little bit of pull? Where can I find a little bit of power? Just kind of cautiously taking a step into that and allowing, the journey to take you wherever it takes you. And, my story took me on a whole ride on that aspect, but that's all.
Yes,
I just want to add one thing, because I've done several of these panels. I'm not sure how many, but Charlotte, I want to say, I think I've seen you participate on every single one of them. And I've seen you in the Facebook group. So my dear, you are a leader. You put that on your list, lady, because that's amazing. That is amazing. You're showing up for yourself, which is the most important thing. And then you can show up for others. So just like you keep going, we've got you.
Yeah. I think, Charlotte, one of the things which all the coaches are talking about is the self-talk. Scientifically, it's known as self-talk. What we talk to ourselves is the most important thing. People generally forget how they should be talking to themselves, but they start expecting other people to talk to them in the same way. It doesn't happen that way. If you want somebody respecting you from outside, you need to respect yourself first, and the people will automatically do that for you. So please, like everybody's mentioning, everybody has a great point, all the coaches, and that's what they're mentioning it to you. Change the words. Words have power. When you keep saying something repeatedly, under the law of repetition, it becomes the reality. For instance, if you keep saying, I don't work, so no matter what, if you're going to see opportunities, but you will not be able to avail them, since you have already made up your mind, and that's a belief system you have it. So there are feelings, thoughts, belief system, and what you talk to yourself. So all these things, they play together. So if you learn about all these things, just change your language, change the verbatim, whatever you're talking to yourself, just start saying, okay, I love opportunities. I love miracles in my life. I love some work is coming towards me. I'm becoming a magnet to work. Any kind of work. So you start to see the changes happening with you. So these are some of the examples you could apply. And like Christine, I like what she said, that you have been showing up everywhere. So this means that you are ready. You're ready to change. You're ready to change yourself. You're ready to change your thoughts, and you're ready to make it reality what you want. So congratulations on that. That's the first step you have taken already. And there's nobody who would not help you to succeed, any of these coaches, whosoever you try to approach. All right. So putting on the last nice and positive note, I wanted to ask everybody, which one leader you get so much inspired by and why? It could be anybody, your family member, any leader, your children. Who do you see or remember, and you think you really get inspired and you want to? All right. Yeah, Coach Kim.
My number one, I'm a huge fan of Jim Rohn. Now he's since gone. He's got an incredible collection. But one of the things that that's just resonates with me is he says, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And that just gives me room and inspiration to grow, to understand that the journey is ongoing. He also says that when he says he doesn't want someone to come and say, oh my goodness, I remember Jim Rohn. He was so good back in the 90s. He's like, no, I want them to say he was good then, but you should see him now. So like there is no stopping point. There is no, I'm here, I can kick back. I've helped all the people I can help because they're all, as long as babies are being born, people are going to show up needing support, encouragement, edification, a way out, follow me. So I love that concept of always being prepared, ever evolving, and always getting better, getting the rough edges off, because I think we can be excellent coaches only because we become more excellent human beings. So yeah, he's my number one guy.
Nice. Great. Anyone else? Sabrina?
I love that Coach Kim's person was a guy, because I have so many men that I follow and I always feel so low-key embarrassed to say that. And I think that I also have somewhat of a masculine way of leading and being and selling. And I don't know if it's because of that or because that's just what I'm drawn to. I have no idea. But anyways, I'm actually going to mention a woman. Sorry. But Barbara Cochran was one of the very first individuals that I came into when I started getting into personal development. She has an awesome, I think it was an audiobook that I listened to pretty early on, like over a decade ago. And her whole thing was, if you have small breasts, put ribbons in your pigtails. Mm-hmm. And basically just stating like, girl, we all got something. You just have to figure out what that is and highlight that one thing. And her personality just beams, her vibrancy is unbelievable. And her story is so close to mine as far as her and her husband, built this huge real estate empire together. He wound up sleeping with his assistant, cheating on her. They got divorced. They were still working together, and she just couldn't take the dynamic had totally changed within the business that they were running. She wound up exiting the relationship and the business, and he told her that she was going to fail. She wanted to get back into real estate. She wanted to open her own thing, the Cochran Group. And she did it despite all of the bull crap that he said to her during the whole divorce and the whole everything. And she freaking killed it. And that's my story. When I left, my fiance at the time and I had built multi-million-dollar industry within the industry that we were in. And we're killing it. Houses, cars, paid in full, zero debt, just rocking it out of the park. I walked away from everything. And he told me to my face, he's like, I'm going to find you behind a dumpster living in a cardboard box. You will never find a job that pays you more than $31,000 a year. And I was scared out of my mind. I was so scared. But I walked away and I continued to build what I had already been building. And now I'm looking and it's crazy what I have done. And I sit down sometimes and I am just baffled. I am just baffled that the amount of work and the amount of effort and the amount of strength that I have put into what I am building, my business, my name, is stronger now than his business ever was. And I take that because I can say that because he was a shitty leader. He was a shitty leader. He was a shitty boss. He was a shitty person. He had no idea how to lead. And the only reason his business got to where it got to was because I was phenomenal. And I can say that without even blinking because I believe that. And having individuals like Barbara Cochran who were sharing her story was what gave me hope back then before I left him, and realizing, hey, there are women out there that are doing this. And I believe that I can do this too. And I was able to step into my own power because she shared her story. And that's why I do what I do now. I do this platform in order to give back, in order to allow women like you who are brilliant, who have gone through so much stuff, to be able to share a part of your story so that individuals like Charlotte who are coming back, who are listening, can pull that power, because it took me years. It took me 5-6 years of listening and listening and listening and listening until I finally was taking little tiny baby steps towards what I have now become. And I'm still doing that. I'm still taking notes when you guys are speaking, still growing my strength, still growing my power, still taking courageous acts into things that scare me in order to continue to grow my confidence. And platforms like this, women like you, are so, so important. That's a little bit of a tangent. Thank you.
Nice. Natalie, yeah. You're on mute. Yeah.
Oh, Sabrina, you had me in tears there for a second. Holy moly, I've got goosebumps running throughout my whole body. And women are so freaking amazing, powerful. Don't ever doubt yourself, right? Brené Brown was one of those women that, holy moly, she changed my freaking world, right? She took some really hard concepts and simplified it. And I remember starting to follow Brené Brown, and she just did these little tiles where she would write her thoughts on anything, you know, on our stories, and she shared her story really openly, unapologetically. And one thing that I loved was her authenticity, her rawness. No bars held, you know, she just said it like it was. And she touched so many people. And I remember going to watch her in Australia, and she walked on stage and she was not dressed up to the nines. She was wearing really simple clothing. She had her boots on, you know, and she stood there and she was freaking amazing, powerful. She radiated out this truth, this essence that I will never forget. And then she started speaking, and she changed the concepts of my thinking, of what I perceived myself to be. She changed it for me by shifting it and telling me that it's okay to have the opposite of that, right? And so she is one of those leaders that she's definitely one of my amazing mentors that I'll never forget. That was a huge catalyst for change in my life, that helped me step into the leader that I am now. And then there's many others like Tony Robbins, my holy moly, right? Yeah. 7 days with Tony Robbins and my whole life changed as well. I've never been so tired in my life and pushed to my limits. But yeah, there's some amazing people out there. You've just got to find who you resonate with. Yeah. And take the golden nuggets of information that come from all of these different people. Yeah, because that is a seed that's planted for you. You might not get it right away, but holy moly, when it lands for you, it's mind-blowing, right? So yeah, go out there and find someone that you look up to, because they are your inspiration. And it might just be a man in the street that puts your trolley away for you, right? And he gives you the biggest smile. It might be okay. It's the simplicity of life that we need to look at. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I wanted to share.
Can I ask Natalie, Kim, and Sabrina one question? So you talked about your inspirations, right? 3 world, whatever people you are inspired by. Do you feel that you have incorporated their little bits of fragrance or fragments into you now? Are you a leader? Do you feel yourself you're a leader now?
Yeah, absolutely. Without those bits of, like, I call them seeds, right? Okay. Without those little seeds and golden nuggets, it wouldn't have activated me in the way that it has. You know, I believe that those people were sent my way at a specific time in my life to step into or being the catalyst to be the leader that I am now. And I never, ever stop learning. I've
Right.
always got these beautiful people and inspirations coming my way to push me outside my own comfort zone and to help me step into the leader that I really, really want to be, you know, as an expanded, authentic, embodied version of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think why I asked this question, because it's very important to our viewers. Like, you should start looking yourself, whatever you do, what all we have been discussing, that we are leaders too. So you start building up on that confidence, which is very important. It's a very great exercise. You know, the person you get inspired by, it's that inspiration in that person. It's triggering something in you because there's something similar.
Hmm.
Because there are 8 billion people, you get inspired by just few of them. Why? There's a reason, because you're carrying some kind of fragments in you, and they need to be, basically developed or evolved. So viewers who are watching, they if they can do this exercise on the regular basis, you would see the things start to change in you, and you start to see yourself as a leader, and you start, generating confidence in you. So what about Christine and Erica? Yeah, Kim.
I was just going to say it can also be kind of a Frankenstein moment. Like you don't have to embody yourself after one particular person. Just you can take nuggets, 10% of this person, 10% of that person, and then just put that template that into your personality so that you can be your best you unapologetically. You know, there's not one person. I'm sure there's some crazy things Jim Rohn has said, not even crazy, just it fits him. Like he speaks on journaling. Oh my, he's got 1,000 books. I'm not a journaler. I've tried, Jim, I've tried, but I don't reject that from him. That worked for him and it works for, millions of people. But that does not allow me to throw him out. He's not the baby I'm throwing out with the bathwater. There's so many other nuggets that do fit me, that do resonate with me, Coach Dita. So yeah, that's a great point.
Thank you for saying that, Coach Kim. I think that that's such an important point to notate. A lot of times we hook onto somebody and then we feel like we have to do all the things.
Correct.
And that's just not a thing. One of the things that I talk about also is there's seasons. So there might be a season for you when journaling is good. And then there might be a whole bunch of them where it's not needed. One of the things that I talk about often is that I don't meditate. Being in the space that I am around so many female coaches, every 8 out of 10 come onto my panel and tell me about meditating. And probably half of you talk about meditating and how important it is to meditate. And I'm over here just like, girl, I don't meditate. I just don't. Have I? Yes. Do I do it during yoga when I go every once in a while? Yes. Do I sit for, extra long before I get out of bed and think about things? Yes. But to sit for 30 minutes and meditate, it's just not something that I do. I've tried. So I think that it's important to reckon. Will there be a point where meditating does sit with me? Yes, that might be in the future. But it's important. I love that you're saying that. It's important for us to recognize that we don't have to marry all the things. We can adjust according to what fits with us.
Whatever resonates with us. Yeah. Erica or Christine? Christine, yeah.
Well, I was going to say Brene Brown, because she definitely, I found Brene Brown's work and tapping at the same time. And so those two things together really helped me move forward and make a lot of really difficult decisions. It was funny because I was thinking about it as I was listening to everyone else, and I thought, Oprah is definitely somebody that I really admire. She's got a great story. I really like Glennon Doyle. She is a great story. She is somebody who completely upended her life. She talked about vulnerability. She kind of became went viral, or however you want to think about it, as a mom, just struggling through her own day-to-day, and created a blog, and that just took off. And then she became an author of books, and she was seen as a Christian author, and then found out that her husband had been cheating on her the duration of their whole marriage, and fell in love with a woman at the same time. and had to make a lot of decisions and ended up leaving her marriage to marry her now wife, and had to think about, like, what was she doing to her family, and did she follow her own heart, or what was she doing? And in the end, for her, she believes, like, they've created this family unit, she and her wife, and her ex-husband doesn't live with them, but they all live in like the same neighborhood, and the three of them are co-parents together, and it's a family unit, and they figured out how to make it work. So I really admire her and her wife and her ex-husband, honestly, because I think they're all pretty amazing to be able to figure it out. But just, to, make that decision and feel like you're going against everything you've been brought up to believe, but it just doesn't feel right for you anymore. And do it in a way like with integrity, with, considering the needs of your children, figuring it, out, and having it come together in this non-traditional family that works. And then also just her, the way she now has a podcast, and all the things that she talks about around women and sexuality and just coming into your own. So she is a big role model. And then the other person that came into my mind was my grandfather, who passed away when I was 5. So never underestimate the influence that you can have on someone's life, because I'm 55. And I would say he's one of the most influential people in my life. And he died when I was 5. And honestly, I don't know if the memories I have are real or just what I took from, you know what I mean? Like what I took from him. But he just always made me feel seen and accepted for exactly who I was. And that is the person that I want to be for other people. And so that, as a parent, as a partner, as a coach, as a friend, so that influences me every single day.
All right, that was very nice. Erika, do you have something to share?
I don't know. I would have a hard time just coming up with one name. I could pull up my phone right now and like pull up Instagram, and I promise you, like the 5 women that are like right there are like inspiring to me, which most likely are African American women or women of color right now, because I want to hear their voice because I didn't grow up getting to hear it. And so I tend to lean towards them right now. I also like people in music. So, for example, Mary J. Blige or Alicia Keys or Alanis Morissette, women who have like done things in their industry that have been, they really had everything up against them, and they should have given up because they just were up against walls all the time. And just to see their level of triumph, to me, is really inspiring. So whether or not we like read them or we look to them as leaders, I do, whether it's in the music industry or it's in a food industry or it's, a woman rocking, 6 kids like I have, I look at all of those different women and think that, God, you're just so amazing. What can I learn from you? From Sabrina to women I come across, just messaging to the person across the street and I'm talking to, hey, how are you doing? And I found out she was only at the coffee shop because she was there to adopt and take custody of her grandchild, finally, after 3 years of the foster system. To me, I was inspired. I wanted to hear everything about her story. I wanted to hear everything. And she was a stranger to me. And so I really look to those people. I read a lot, so I won't say that I don't read. Almost everybody that you guys mentioned, I've read their books. I devour books like crazy. I'm really into collaborative books right now. Red Thread Publishing just put out a book called Sanctuary, and it literally every chapter is written by a different woman. that to me was more inspiring than reading one person's solid book, because I got to hear and resonate with so many different women. So those are the things that are inspiring me right now, especially where I'm at.
Okay. Yes, Natalie?
Thank you, Erika. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I am in my third book portal with multiple authors right now, launching my new book on Friday. And it is the most incredible transformational space to be in with these women, and hearing their stories, reading the chapters of what they've written, the challenges that they have been through, the steps that they've taken, the empowerment that, you know, they've moved into. And I totally agree with you that every single person is an inspiration if we choose to listen, if we choose to allow them space in our lives, and truly listen to what they have to gift us. Because these angels, I say these angels that walk amongst us, right? And if we give people time of day, we can learn much and be inspired through them so much. So yeah, thank you, Coach Geeta.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think, yeah. So everybody kind of touched upon so many things. And personally, I feel I would so much agree with Erica and Natalie, everybody. In fact, as a power of now, five people are inspiration for me, some way or the other. Because as a coach, you're always evolving. There's no one you come in contact with anything in your life. You're always, because as a coach, you're thinking a lot, you're helping them out somewhere. So everybody who comes in contact with you and you're learning, you're also trying to analyze yourself, how you're responding to the reactions. You're no longer giving reactions to them. So I think, yes, I do have big names, authors, or like Tony Robbins, I can say all that. But as a matter of fact, I would say even sometime my own kids, children, husband, people are, everybody is you learn from, is kind of an inspiration for you. Because if somebody triggers something in your mind, or it reflects back to you, or it gives you a pointer to think about, please, that's an inspiration you're going to go through. So I think viewers are writing journals, so I want them to write everything about what inspires them. It could be a butterfly, so as simple as that. In the morning they see a beautiful butterfly and they get inspired how beautiful life is. So let me start with that, something like that. So don't underestimate your power of getting inspired from someone else. And lastly, and the most evidently, you should get inspired by your own self. I think that's the biggest thing you could do.
I love that.
Don't have to believe in anybody. So I do get inspired all with the powerful, beautiful ladies, but at the end, I'm inspired by myself too. The things I have done, things I'm doing, and things I'll be doing in the future. So I see myself in that. So I'm my own inspiration in some ways, because when I can get up, I can write another book. I become an author. I was a scientist. I did this and this. Yes, that's an inspiration. So to deliver it confidently to the people, that's what the leader does. So be your own inspiration. So next time when we talk about who you get inspired by, yes, everyone, but in the end, by me as well. I tend to surprise myself as well. So I think that is a little bit of take from me.
I love that. What a great way to end your session there, Geeta.
Thank you.
I love it. We have a couple more minutes. Does anyone have any closing thoughts before we wrap up here? Confidence, leadership, anything that you kind of left on the table? Okay.
I see lots of high marks, especially in social media. I know we're all looking at all these channels, and we catch people, and I'm talking mostly to the viewers now and the replay. We catch people at their high moments, and it's so easy to take a snapshot of that and then hold it, looking in the mirror and looking at that and scratching your head and saying, why don't I match that? But when Geeta was saying, for example, that being self-inspired, it also reminded me, some posts I see say things like, you put your shoes on today and you got up and you cleaned your house. That's inspirational, right? So I just want to say, make sure you understand where you are on the spectrum. And as long as you're doing a little bit better, right? A little bit better than the previous day, the previous week, the previous year, then you're moving in the right direction. And you don't have to wait till, you're getting a standing ovation in front of a crowd of 10,000. When your children say, yes, mommy, I cleaned my room because you told me to. Hey, that's great, because that means you're running an operation under this rooftop, and people are listening to you, and you're getting the job done. Mission accomplished. You're working together. It's integrated, and you are functioning as one. So just recognize where you are, evaluate your assets, and say, hey, and here are my weak points, and these are the ones I want to work on. Guess what? You have a self-assignment, and that's okay. Progress is on your plate, and you get to make some choices. So I just want people to be encouraged, even when they see something negative, that you have a chance to thank you that I saw it, and now what am I going to do about it? Because like you, Sabrina, I am definitely cut in the male cloth. I'm not like, just tell me, and what else? So I'm like, no, what are we going to do about this? We see the issues. Now let's fix them. 10 at a time, one at a time. Let's fix it. What's the motion? So yeah, I just want to encourage the viewers about that.
I love that. And thank you for that too. I work very heavily in the sobriety community, especially down here in South Florida. And I hear that a lot within, individuals that have kind of given way to alcohol abuse or drug abuse from the age of like 15 all the way through 35. And they're finally sobering up at age 33. They're now 35. They're 2 years into their sober life, and they're looking around and they're like, everyone's married with kids. And I barely am working a job right now. And they're kind of looking around and they're kind of feeling that lull that a lot of people feel, but even more so because, they're in a different state. And exactly what Kim said, it doesn't matter what your past story is, where you're at, just as long as you're moving forward, you're taking a step in that direction. And that's one of the most important things that I talk about is you got to kind of put blinders on sometimes, especially if you're coming from a story like that. It's not about, where everybody else is. You are where you are. Be proud of where you came from and everything that you've endured up to this point. We're all proud of you, and just take the next step. And, Gita.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because a lot of people keep repeating the patterns of repeating the stories again and again. And sometimes I feel that you need to stop and move, because unless you keep repeating it, your brain cells are going to say, okay, the story is somewhere running again and again. Yeah. So what I want as a coach, we are not therapists, we are coaches, right? So as a coach, I love to, when my clients come in, and tell them, forget, that's an old story. You have written a new story, and just believe in it and move forward. So the error should always be progressive and moving forward. So to stop repeating and being a victim mentality, because that's one of the basic, most of the people have that problem these days, because they like to repeat this, not only their personal stories, their client stories all the time. But I somewhat tell, sometimes you need to stop and move forward now.
Yeah, 100. Natalie, last one, wrapping it up.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe it's about choice. What do you want now? Because this is the very moment right now where you can make the change, where you can be the change that you want to be. So yes, the past happened, but it's about how do you want to move forward from now? I have a client, a beautiful client. I said to her this week, how are you? Because she's going through a heck of a lot. She's leaving her relationship, or she's left her relationship. She's moving out. She's taking the kids. She had to find a house, and there's a lot going on. And I was like, how are you? And she went, well, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm putting my knickers on the right way. So, knickers are, underwear. And she, just in case you didn't know. And I was like, yay, I'm celebrating you. That is huge, especially when you've got so many different spinning plates that you're dealing with. So just take every day, one step at a time, work in the now with what you have right now, and then choose where you want to be, where you want to go. And you know what? If you don't get it right the first time, do it again. Don't ever give up. Thank you, Sabrina.
100%. I love that. I love this panel because we all come from such different leadership styles. So it was really cool kind of seeing us all mesh together and actually agree on some things. So that was really awesome. I was kind of hesitant on how this would go. So I love it. For those of you listening live right now, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the replay and you made it this far, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know where you were watching us at. We can send you some love. Thank you so much for joining us here on this panel of Her Version. I hope you received some helpful information on confidence and leadership. The content here was amazing as always. I learned so much and I hope you did too. If you resonated with any of these ladies, please follow and reach out to them. Their information is in the ticker bar at the bottom of the screen and in the description of the video you are watching. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I do one-on-one podcasts 3 to 4 times a week, every week. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others as